آله وصحبه من والاه سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وزدنا علما يا مقلب القلوب ثبت قلوبنا على دينك. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Um, I just came for the tail end of Mona Zakaria's nasiha, so I didn't hear the whole discussion. Maybe just like one or two thoughts from my side is that is that when we're speaking internally as a ummah, we speak about the love of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, our commitment to him, and his position with us as Muslims. When we speak to people who are outside of our faith tradition, outside of Islam, we can't necessarily use the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam's position as an argument as to against free speech and against depiction of him sallallahu alaihi wasallam in a way that offends us. I think our discussion has to be that free speech is always balanced with the idea of dignity and the idea of not causing harm. So I think that discussion is different when we have a discussion between Muslims and when we have a discussion outside of Islam. So, for example, I don't think anybody is going to argue within any country that your free speech can be racist. Like, you can't be racist and then say, I'm exercising my free speech. That wouldn't be acceptable according to everybody. You can't be sexist and then say, I'm exercising my free speech. That wouldn't be acceptable to anybody. And in the same way, you cannot offend unduly people's faith. Yes, you can criticize it. Like, I think there's a difference between criticizing people's faith and criticizing ideas. But with regard to causing offense, I think there are constitutional arguments to be made against that. And I think so. When it comes to between Muslims, we discuss the subject matter according to the position of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. But when it comes to discussing with outside other Muslims, I mean with non-Muslims, we need to discuss it based on constitutional norms and human rights and that discussion. So the tone of the discussion is different. The tone of the discussion is different depending on who we are speaking to. So I think just be sensitive about that. And likewise, we as Muslims, we can criticize other people's faith, but we should never mock it. Even if other people believe in monkeys and they believe in like things which we find strange, or they believe in people as gods, we can criticize it, but we should never mock it, because we shouldn't be guilty of that which we wouldn't like done to ourselves. So I think we have to be sensitive to that. And the second thought, I don't know if Zakir covered this, but like governments like France, they don't say this out of ignorance of what they're saying. It's a very deliberate attempt which people make because they want to advance their own positions and they want to cement themselves within on a political spectrum which appeals to their voters, because they're losing popularity. And a lot of the Europe and to extent North America is starting to lean more towards the right, and on the right there's going to be more conservatism and more anti-immigration stance and anti-Muslim stance, and they just move that way because they do it because it holds onto power. It's an instrument that they use to hold onto power. And when Muslims react in a violent way, it actually advances their position. We're actually helping them out to cement their power. And I think we as Muslims must be wary of that. First, understanding that these things are not done out of ignorance. These things are done knowingly and deliberately, and they're done for political motivations and for motivations of holding on to power. And when we react in a way that is violent or a way that is not becoming of a believer, that actually furthers their cause, because they say, see, we told you so. This is why they are not like us. And I think that is important for us. And the third thing I want to mention, the last thing maybe, is that we should keep calling out the hypocrisy of these systems. the hypocrisy of a nation which has killed hundreds of thousands of Muslims, have buried hundreds of thousands of Muslims, invaded Muslim countries, now calling out Muslims as barbarians, as not French. I mean, the hypocrisy is so blatant, so evident, and we must make manifest the hypocrisy. We must make manifest the hypocrisy. It is an hypocrisy to to invade and brutalize a nation and then accuse that nation of brutality. That is the highest level of hypocrisy, and we should call it out and make it manifest. It's hypocrisy uh, to make it compulsory to wear a face mask, but to ban a face veil, as if the two are very different. And so I think we have to call out those hypocrisies, and I think that's important. But we do it in a calm way, and Allah knows best. So I think those are just 3 points I wanted to make, and just I think are important in our discussions. And the Prophet, there's one institute, there's one incident comes to mind. Is the incident of Jamil, was the wife of wife of Abu Lahab, and Jamil used to call the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam mudammam. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, mudammam means like Muhammad means the one who is praised, and mudammam is the one who is dispraised. And she used to write like poetry against the Prophet sallallahu, or recite poetry against the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, like mudammaman asayna wa amruhu abayna wa dinahu qalayna, like poetry against him, but not calling him Muhammad, calling him mudammam. When the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam heard about this, he didn't react in a violent way. He acted in a very like interesting way. He's like, look, Allah has protected me. She's talking about mudammam and I'm Muhammad, and he laughed and he left it off. He didn't have this like, must behead her, we must kill her. He just laughed. Allah, she's not talking about me. She's talking about Mudammam. I'm not about Muhammad. I'm Muhammad. And his attitude was that in that situation, he just just brush it off basically. So I think it's important to contextualize our actions. Allah knows best. Okay, just some thoughts. I don't know. I didn't hear the whole Nasiha, but those are some thoughts from my side. But I think one of the good things about South Africa is that South Africa comes from a legacy of abuse of people based on their race, and often couched in religious terms. Like the apartheid government used to couch their philosophy within religious terms. And I think subsequent to that, our constitution is very particular, not on freedom as much as human dignity. Like within our constitutional framework, human dignity is what like reigns supreme, as opposed to unbridled freedom. I mean, it's always a balance, but we have a very strong emphasis on dignity within our constitution, and it's a very good framework to have because it protects all people from harm. So it's a good narrative that we have within our constitution, whereas others would be more geared towards freedoms and not really worrying about dignity so much. So I think the fact that dignity plays such an important part it's important within our constitutional framework. Allah knows best. Okay, Bismillah. I'm really actually missing to be in class. It's quite taxing. I don't know how you guys find it to be online. I don't know if you find it comfortable, you find it difficult. But as a teacher, it gets quite difficult to teach online for long. So I look forward to us getting back to class soon, inshallah. Okay, Bismillah, where are we? Okay, how did your session go this week? So basically, we are hopefully returning to the masjid for end of year gathering this year. So in 3-4 weeks, inshallah, we'll have an end of year at the end of November, December. We'll send the date. We'll have an end of year gathering, and our intention is, if all goes well with the corona, if it stays a reasonable rate, that we will return to class in January, inshallah ta'ala. And when we return, we'll still broadcast like we do now via Zoom and so on, but the class will be primarily in person in January onwards, inshallah. So hopefully we'll be back. We'll back in class, inshallah, and then also we'll be online as well for those. We'll broadcast the lessons online for those who want to follow. But of course, the difference is that when we're in class, it's difficult for us to interact with online students Because when we have a class, it's very difficult for us to kind of look at a Zoom chat while we're teaching. So we won't be able to interact as much with online students. We will interact primarily with the in-class students, but the online students can follow on and watch and so on and follow the lesson. So I'm looking forward to that, inshallah ta'ala. We have to add the tennis soon, inshallah. But I think at the end of the year, we'll have a nice dhikring, nasiha gathering, dua, and like end of year event at the mosque with the proper protocols in place. Bismillah. So let's actually start with hadith first, and then we can go on to this. Let's go with hadith first. So, Bismillah. We also had an issue with our WhatsApp lately, so we haven't been able to WhatsApp you a few things. Did you attend the lesson on Tuesday, and how did it go? Is it going?
He must know there was a lesson on Tuesday.
Okay. So we emailed everybody because our WhatsApp isn't working. So just check your email, inshallah. Hopefully our WhatsApp will be back up this week again. But I think your lesson this week will be on Wednesday evening, 8:30. Was it Wednesday? It was Thursday, wasn't it? It was on Thursday last week. So your lesson this week will be on Wednesday, inshallah. It will be on Wednesday at 8:30. And we encourage you to attend to discuss the answers. Hopefully you know all the answers when you come to class already. So yeah. And the first year said they enjoyed being with you because they could see how good you are. I'm not saying that as a joke, I meant it for real. They were inspired to see where they can be soon, inshallah. Okay. So let's begin with the 40 hadith. It's on the share drive and I put it on the chat now as well. But you can just follow on the screen. Okay. So Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. I'll revise last week's hadith. Al-Hadith al-Hadi wal-Ishrun. Hadith number 21. عن أبي ذر الغفار رضي الله تعالى عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إنكم verily you لا ترجعون إلى الله, you will not return to Allah بشيء, with anything, أفضل, that is better, مما, than that which خرج منه, that which has emanated, emerged from him, يعني al-Quran, in other words the Quran. ظهر منه, it emerged, it was made manifest from him. No. So let's say it a few times. It's a very short one-line hadith. We can maybe memorize, inshallah. إنكم لا ترجعون إلى الله. Let's say it a few times. إنكم لا ترجعون إلى الله. We'll say it together. إنكم لا ترجعون إلى الله. إنكم لا ترجعون إلى الله. From memory. إنكم لا ترجعون إلى الله بشيء, with anything. أفضل مما خرج منه. بشيء أفضل مما خرج منه. بشيء أفضل مما خرج منه. بشيء أفضل مما خرج منه. From memory. بشيء أفضل بشيء أفضل مما خرج منه. بشيء أفضل مما خرج منه. From the beginning. إنكم لا ترجعون إلى الله بشيء مما خرج منه, يعني القرآن ظهر منه. يعني القرآن ظهر منه. يعني القرآن ظهر منه. From memory, the whole thing, inshallah. إنكم لا ترجعون إلى الله بشيء أفضل مما خرج منه. يعني القرآن ظهر منه. So keep practicing, especially the short hadith. You can memorize them. They're just one-liners. They're easy to remember, inshallah. Today's hadith. Al-Hadith الثاني والعشرون. ثاني من second, عشرون من 20 second. عن أنس بن مالك رضي الله تعالى عنه قال قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم إن لله أهلين من الناس. إن لله, verily for Allah they are أهلين. What's أهل noun in Arabic? And أهل.
People of the family.
People's noun, أهل is a family, a family. So when the Prophet ﷺ says verily lillahi, for Allah, There is ahlina. They are people of the ahl. They are family members, minnas. What do you think that means? Do we believe Allah has family? What does it mean here in the context of Allah?
Aslamullah, is it perhaps like close friends or not family members, but close
Okay,
people?
good. So what I want to say is that language, and I think this is important about language. Sometimes language is literal, and sometimes language is metaphorical. And I think that sometimes like you must sort out in your own mind that language is often metaphorical. And so when the Prophet is saying Allah, they are people who are like family, it doesn't mean Allah has family. It's a metaphor for someone being close to Allah Ta'ala, as in our world, family members are close. Husband, wife, children are close. It's a metaphor for being close to Allah Ta'ala and being, like dear to Allah. Like a family member is not only close, it's also dear to you. They share blood, there's an intimacy, a closeness about it. So often language is metaphorical and not literal. And that's how language is. And I think sometimes um, it's important to understand the difference, because if you're going to get into always literal translation, you're going to find yourself in lots of trouble with in many occasions. Sometimes language has to be interpreted metaphorically. So inna lillahi ahlina minan nas. Who wants to have a go at doing the grammar labels for that sentence?
Inna would be ismu inna anillahi, ismu innallahi, and therefore the inna is in nasb.
Okay, doctor, to take a step back. So the first word inna. So the first word inna must give you a clue, because inna is a harf. So they are inna and its sisters. Inna, anna, anna, lakinna, layta, la'alla. There's inna and it has its sisters. When you see the word inna, what type of jumla do you think about? Ismiya or fi'liya? So Sabra, you must answer with us also. Sabra is always typing other answers in the chat. Is it ismiya or fi'liya?
Ismiya.
It's going to be ismiya. So
Ismiya becomes a fi'liya.
say it again.
No?
No, so
Can
basically,
inna make the ismiya a different from the ismiya that has a mubtada and a khabar? In that it's got a different kind of khabar and mubtada.
okay, good. So basically, inna gives you an indication that you have a jumlatul ismiya. And for some of the second years, we haven't done inna yet, but we will do it inshallah. But inna gives you an indication that you have a jumlatul ismiya. And instead of mubtada and khabar, we're going to change the names to ism inna and khabru inna. So that's the first thing. When you see inna, you're looking for ismu inna and khabru inna. You're looking for those two parts. So now the question is, what hal is ism inna in and which hal is khabr inna in? You say
To
inna
nasb
allaha
for
or you say
the,
inna allahu?
it's a nasb, inna
Nas.
allaha.
Yeah, so if you get confused, you can just think of inna allaha wa malaikatahu an-nasb, inna allaha wa malaikat. No, you can think of inna allaha. So the ism inna. So where is the ism inna here?
Ahlina.
So ahlina is the ism inna. Then where's the khabru inna?
Nasi.
الناس
Remember, nas comes after which word? Min.
Majroor.
So min is what? Min is harful jar. And nas is ism majroor. And minan nas is just linked to ahlina. So it can't be ahlina minan nas. So it can't be minan nas. So the answer is lillahi. Lillahi. That lam is a harful jar and the word Allah is ism majroor, and that harful jar ism majroor is in place of the khabru inna. It's a difficult one to see, but the khabru inna is brought before the ismu inna. So the khabr inna is lillahi. Oh, the lillahi is in place of the khabr inna. Anyway, it's a tough one. Inna lillahi, verily lillahi ahlina minan nas. It's all said together. Inna lillahi ahlina minan nas. All said together. Inna lillahi ahlina minan nas. Again. Inna lillahi ahlina minan nas. From memory. Inna lillahi ahlina minan nas. نعم. قالوا قال, he said, قالوا, they said. Who's they referring to? Who's they referring to?
People.
Which people? Who is saying inna lillahi ahlina minan nas? If you look back, it says قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم. The Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم says inna lillahi ahlina minan nas. قالوا, they said. Who's they? What do you call people around the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم?
Sahaba.
The Sahaba. So in other words, think about this as a conversation between the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Sahaba. Anas is telling you, Anas used to serve the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam for 10 years. Anas, he said one day he was with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam and the Prophet was in the gathering, that's why it's qalu, and the Prophet said to them, Inna lillahi ahlina minan nas. Verily for Allah there are people who are so close, I'm using the term ahl, family, they are like family members to Allah. When the Prophet ﷺ says that there are people who are like the family members to Allah, what's the natural question? Qalu, they said, Man hum ya Rasulullah. So qalu, the fa'il is the huwa, referring to Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, and they said, Wa man hum ya Rasulallahi. Wa man, and man, who is whom, who is them, who are they, who are they, who are they? Yeah, oh Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wasallam, who are these people that you are calling ahlina minan nas? They belong to Allah. So that is the Sahaba. Let's say together, qalu wa man hum ya Rasulullah. Again, wa qalu wa man hum ya Rasulullah. Say it together. Qalu wa man hum ya Rasulallahi. Again from memory. Qalu wa man hum ya Rasulallahi. They say from the beginning. Inna lillahi ahlina minan nas. Qalu wa man hum ya Rasulallahi. We'll say from the text at least. Inna lillahi ahlina minan nas. قالوا ومن هم يا رسول الله. Last time. إن لله أهلين من الناس. قالوا ومن هم يا رسول الله. قال, he said. Who is the he? So you're following the conversation.
Rasulullah.
Rasulullah sallallahu
Rasulullah.
He's saying now. So what does he say? He's going to explain who they are. He says, Ahlul Qur'ani hum ahlullahi. Ahlul Qur'ani hum ahlullahi. Ahlul Qur'an means the people of the Qur'an, the family of the Qur'an, those who are close to the Qur'an, that they call the Ahl of the Qur'an. The people, the close ones of the Qur'an, whom they, ahlullahi, they are the family or the close ones of Allah. Wa, not only the close ones, khasatuhu. Say it, khasatuhu. Khasatuhu. Khasatuhu means from khas. Khas means like special, elect, the preferred ones of Allah. They are the elect, the elite of Allah Ta'ala, the elect of Allah Ta'ala. So this is a beautiful hadith. The Prophet ﷺ says, Ahlul Qur'an, the Ahl of the Qur'an. The people who are close to the Quran, they call the Ahlul Quran. The people, the ones who are close to the Quran, hum Ahlullahi wa khasatuhu. So you say this last part, قال أهل القرآن هم أهل الله وخاصته. Altogether, قال أهل القرآن هم أهل الله وخاصته. Again, قال أهل القرآن هم أهل الله وخاصته. Again, أهل القرآن هم أهل الله وخاصته. From memory, أهل القرآن هم أهل الله وخاصته. Again, أهل القرآن هم أهل الله وخاصته. They said the whole hadith, so the whole hadith from the text twice, and then once from memory, inshallah. Inna lillahi ahlina minan nasi. Altogether. Inna lillahi ahlina minan nasi. قالوا ومن هم يا رسول الله قال أهل القرآن هم أهل الله وخاصته. From the text again. إن لله أهلين من الناس قالوا ومن هم يا رسول الله قال أهل القرآن هم أهل الله وخاصته. From memory once if you can. إن لله أهلين من الناس قالوا ومن هم يا رسول الله قال أهل القرآن هم أهل الله وخاصته. And again, this hadith is all these hadith, but this hadith is telling you the maqam, the station with Allah Ta'ala of those who are close to the Quran, that they are the ahl of Allah, they are the people, the close, almost like the close family of Allah Ta'ala, the intimate ones of Allah, and they are the khasa, they are the elect of Allah Ta'ala. If we don't have a relationship with the Quran, let's at least start the relationship by reciting 1 page a day or half a page a day and pondering on 1 or 2 verses a day. Something we do every day will add up. Something we do in bursts, a bit in Ramadan, a bit now and then, will almost amount to very little. Something you do every day, 365 days a year, for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, amounts to a lot. So have a relationship with the Quran every day. I remind myself, I remind all of you, every day spend a few moments with the Quran. We are able to spend a lot of moments on WhatsApp, a lot of moments on Facebook and Instagram, a lot of moments reading the news, a lot of moments watching sports, a lot of more moments Googling random stuff. But we should spend a few moments, or if possible, many moments with the Quran, with the niyyah of becoming those who are close to Allah Ta'ala. What you occupy your senses with is what you become. What you put into your mind and your eyes and your ears and your heart is what you become. And if you become a person who is putting the Quran into their ears and the Quran into their eyes and the Quran into their heart, then you become from the Ahlul Qur'ani, Ahlullahi wa khasatuhu. May Allah make us right. May Allah remove all distractions from our life, unnecessary distractions from our lives, that we should spend some time with the Quran. We come from a community, alhamdulillah, that loves the Quran, that loves to read the Quran and celebrate the Quran, but we need to carry that responsibility individually. Individually, we have to be connected to the Quran, and individually, we have to motivate our families to connect to the Quran as well. So we should have Quran circles within our home. We have a few minutes for the day, even 10, 15 minutes. The family, maybe after Maghrib, after Isha, the family sits together and reads Quran for 10, 15 minutes. That is a barakah in your life and in your home and in your family. And also in terms of childhood development, there's nothing more powerful than a child witnessing their parents doing something over and over. When a child witnesses their parents doing something over and over, that sets in their mind a standard, like a track in their mind, that no matter how far or whatever path they choose, eventually they come back to that path because they've been molded on that path. So one of the questions you should ask yourself is, do my children witness me with the Quran? Do my children witness me for the Quran? Not because of riyah, because you want to show off, because you want, as part of the tarbiyah is to see a good example. So part of the tarbiyah must be to see a good example when we are sitting with the Quran. Often I find is that many parents, they regard Quran is for their children. I'm going to send my children to study hifz and to go do 1 year course, 2 year course. The Quran is like for the children. To be honest, I think the parents are often more in need of the Quran than the children. They're still on fitrah. They're 7, 8 years old. They're still on fitrah. The parents are often more in need of it. So don't make that mistake where Quran is for your children. Quran is for everybody. The Prophet ﷺ received the Quran when he was 40 years old, a grown man. So Quran is for the adults and for the children. It's not relegated to a something for the children that they must bacha and they must be with the Quran. That's a misunderstanding of the Quran. It is for all of us. May Allah make us of these people of the Quran. Allahu Ameen. Good. And the fact that you're in class still, Alhamdulillah, online after all these months, may Allah make you of the Ahlul Quran because you're still striving to understand His book every Sunday morning. Alhamdulillah. May Allah bless you all for your efforts. Ameen. So Bismillah, let's do some Quran. In Surah Baqarah, our assignment, يَعْلَمُ مَا بَيْنَ أَيْدِيهِمْ وَمَا خَلْفَهُم. The first question, where is the fa'il and the maf'ul bihi for يَعْلَمُ? Where is the fa'il and the maf'ul bihi for يَعْلَمُ?
The file is inside he,
Okay,
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
good. So the fa'il is inside, nothing on the left, nothing on the end, nothing on the left. It's inside the huwa, inside. So يَعْلَمُ, he knows. Where is the maf'ul bihi? What does he know? Where's the maf'ul bihi? The maf'ul bihi, sorry, I didn't hear that.
Is ma.
The maf'ulun bihi is ma. So we learn sometimes ma is a negative particle, which means ma not, and sometimes ma is an ism, And the ma, which is ism here, in raf'un it's ma, in nasbun it's ma, and in jarrun it's ma. In this case, that ma is an ism and it is in nasbun, because maf'ul bihi, what does Allah know? Ma, whatever is bayna aydihim wa ma khalfahum. Good. What does aydihim, bayna aydihim refer to? Does it refer to the past, the future, the place? What did you find? What does bayna aydihim mean literally, first of all?
Whatever is before him.
Okay, so what does it mean literally? Bayna aydihim.
In the hands.
So bayna means between. What does aydihim mean? Their hands. So bayna aydihim means between their hands. So what did you find when you researched this? Well, hopefully you researched this, or I don't know if you just thought about it. But what did you find?
The aydihim refers to the present and future.
Okay, I didn't hear exactly. Was it past, present, and future?
Present and future, aydihim.
Okay, present and future could be one understanding, yes. Anything else? Anything else? So if you're looking for the meaning of something, we normally look in tafsir books. Normally you'll check in the Arabic tafsir, but because we can't check Arabic tafsir, we have to check an English tafsir. So if I'm going to check an English tafsir, I'm going to go to Surah Al-Baqarah, and then I'm going to go to QuranHive.com here. I'm going to go to learn. I'm going to go to learn. I'm going to go to learn here. And then learn is going to give me a number of tafsirs. Ma'ariful Quran is a good tafsir if you're looking for the meaning of things. So Ma'ariful Quran is going to give you the tafsir of Ayatul Kursi, and then I'm going to look for that verse. And the verse is, where are we now? He says here. So let's read together. He says the sixth sentence. يَعْلَمُ مَا بَيْنَ أَيْدِيهِمْ وَمَا خَلْفَهُم. He's going to give you a number of meanings. He says it could mean he knows what is before them and what is behind them. It means that Allah Almighty is aware of all the states and events surrounding them. So when you think about before and behind and surrounding, do you think of time or you think of space? Of time or place?
In terms of time,
So if you think of baina between our hands, when you think of events and states that surrounding them, my understanding of what he's saying is that actually he's speaking about things happening to people. So in other words, baina aydihim is things happening in front of you, and khalfahum means things happening behind you. So in other words, things happening around you, all around you, events surrounding them. So in other words, it's everything happening around you. That is one meaning of baina aydihim. In other words, for me, that's more about actually about place, about space, about what's happening now around you. Then he says, before and after may also mean, in other words, these are other meanings, may also mean that Allah Almighty is aware of all states and events before their birth and after their birth. Before their birth and after their birth. So now we're speaking about time. In other words, Baina Aydihim could mean something which happened before their birth, and Khalfahum could mean something that happens after their birth. After their birth. So it could refer to time. Then he says, it is possible that before refers to states and events that are open to men, and after denotes states and events that are hidden to men. So the third meaning. First meaning was, he knows everything in front and behind you, knows everything surrounding you, he knows everything happening to you. The second meaning was, he knows things that happened before your birth and after your birth. The third meaning was that he knows that which is seen, baina aydihim, it's between your hands, it is visible. Khalfahum means it's something which it's behind you, you can't see it. In other words, that which is hidden. So it could be the manifest and could mean the hidden. And that's the beauty of this expression. It extends towards both space, towards time, towards the manifest, and towards that which is hidden. So it means all of those things. I actually, for many, and I find the expression baina aydihim interesting, and I find sometimes also difficult to like pinpoint. Because when you think of time, do you think baina aydihim means the future or khalfahu means the future?
I think Baina ID means the future.
Why did you say that?
Because Baina ID literally means between your hands, so it's in front of you. So in time, like time that is in front of you that must still come.
Okay, good. Can I give you a different understanding? You can see if it makes sense to you.
Okay.
Okay. So imagine I bought a new house, right? I bought a new house. Now I walk up to the new house. Is that new house baina aydih?
Yes, it is, but it's like right in front of you.
It's in front of you. So in other words, there is a way you can understand that to mean something preceded your coming there. So like you come to a house, you come to a village, and what is before you is indicating towards the history of that thing. And when you leave it, what is behind you is referring to the future of that thing. I don't know if that makes sense to you.
I understand.
You understand? It's like
I do.
you come to a place, and whatever is in front of you is an indication of what happened before you, because this is the legacy of what happened before you. And when you leave a place, whatever is khalfa you is what's going to happen after you. So I often struggle with this verse, but I came to the conclusion, and I must maybe read some more tafsir about it, that baina aydihim actually refers to the past and khalf refers to the future. But I may be wrong because all the translations say something else. But that's my understanding of the verse. Naam.
I read
What
through the tafsir of Ibn Kathir also, Maulana, and I know it was referring to the future because it made reference to the year after.
Yes. So I've read tafsir going both ways. So I think both
Okay.
the opinions exist. And I think that's the kind of beauty of the verse also, is that it lends itself to multiple understandings of time, of space, of before, after, of known, of unknown, hidden, seen, and all those things. Okay. Next one. وَلَا يُحِيطُونَ بِشَيْءٍ مِّنْ عِلْمِهِ إِلَّا بِمَا شَاءَ. What are the root letters for يُحِيطُونَ?
Ha, Waw, and Ta.
Okay, and how do you know that? How do you know it's ha, waw, and ta? Anybody?
Honestly, Maulana, I play around with the root letter, with the root letter, and my first guess was right.
Okay, good. So you can play around the root. You can look at ha, waw, ta, ha, ya, ta, ha, alif, ta, ha, ta, waw, ha, ta. You know, you can look around all the stuff. I do want to say also there are tools to look up the things also, because I think a lot of the tools are available now. So we have to make use of the tools. One tool is QuranHive.com. And if you want the root letter of any word, you just scroll over the word. So what does it say there when you scroll over the word? Can you see it there? Can you see the block on top, the orange block?
Yes.
It says ha, wow, ta. So it's a very shortcut, a very quick shortcut. If you want to look up the root letter, is you scroll over the word. It will give you ha, wow, and ta, and give you the root letters. So it's a useful tool if you're struggling to find the root letters, especially when it comes to weak verbs. Weak verbs are very difficult to find the root letters sometimes. You have to look up like 3, 4, 5 combinations. A quick way is just to go over there, scroll, and see it. And if you click on I, it'll give you more. Let me just see here. You must be quite quick sometimes with this thing. You click on I, and it'll give you more Hawalta dictionary stuff in there. Okay, good. Next one. Where is the fa'il for yuhituna and sha'a? What does it refer to? Who does it refer to? ولا يحيطون بشيء من علمه. Where is the fa'il for yuhituna?
Waw Jamaat,
Well, Jama referring to who?
to they.
To they people. ولا يحيطون, and they people do not encompass بشيء anything من علمه from his knowledge إلا بما شاء. Where's the fa'il for شاء?
Inside.
It is inside. What's inside there?
Allah
Huwa.
subhanahu wa ta'ala.
There's a huwa
Huwa.
inside there, referring to who? Referring to Allah. So sha'a
Allah.
is He willed. Illa bima sha, except that which He willed.
Equals.
What are the grammar labels for the underlined words? Who wants to go?
Bishayin is jar majroor.
Okay, is it una first? The first one is una. Yuhituna. Karan, yuhituna. What's the una?
Una is the five.
It's a fa'il. Dua.
It is a fa'il is whom.
Yeah, so the fa'il for the una here, actually the wal jama'at, particularly the una here, is the fa'il referring to they. The bi shay'in, you said bi was what?
Jar majroor.
Harful jar, ismul majrur. Min
Again.
Harf.
harful
Harfu jar.
harful jar. See, we can't say harf only because there are many types of huruf, so you must say harful jar.
Yeah.
Ilmihi. Ilmihi.
Ilmi. Oyana. Ilmi.
After harful jar comes what?
Majroor.
After harful jar always comes ismul majrur. Ismul majrur. And the ha? Anybody can answer. Bismillah.
مضاف إليه.
مضاف إليه مضاف إليه. So the ها is going to be مضاف إليه. من حرف جر علمي اسم مجرور ها مضاف إليه. إلا بما
حرف
anybody
جر
بسم الله.
مجرور.
حرف جر اسم مجرور, and here's a good example to show you that B is حرف جر, ما is اسم مجرور. Can you see the ما there is the same ما there? Here the ما was نصب مفعول به. Here the ما is جر مفعول به because the ما is an ism. You can't see the changing, but there's different حالs. Good. Next one. وسع كرسي السماوات والأرض. وسع encompasses kursi. Is kursi encompasses the heavens and the earth. What are the grammar labels for the underlined words? Those of you who are
فاعل
quiet, you must join the discussion, inshallah. Bismillah.
فاعل
Sorry, ma-
كرسي
Kursiyu is going to be the fa'il. Good. Wasi'a is the verb, encompasses. Kursiyu is the fa'il, and the hadi, kursiyuhu,
مضاف إليه.
mudafun ilayh. His kursi encompasses as-samawat.
You is مضاف إليه.
Kursiyu is mudafun ilayh, yes. And as-samawati,
مفعول به one.
it's maf'ulun bihi. It's a maf'ulun bihi. As-samawat maf'ulun bihi, because why? It's a sound female plural or similar to a sound female plural. Therefore, there's a kasra at the end like muslimat. Good. Look up the word kursi. What does it mean in modern standard Arabic? What did you find when you look up the word kursi? So let's look it up. What did you find? Here's kursi. Kursi. So we have karrasa, to lay a foundation, establish, all those things. Kursi means a chair, throne, seat, professional chair, base, pedestal, and there's many other combinations. So that's what kursi means in modern standard Arabic. Then I asked you to look up the word kursi in the various tafsirs and translations. What did you get for the word kursi?
sovereignty.
Sovereignty. Give me more. What did you
Footstool,
find?
Ibn Kathir.
Footstool,
Throne, seat of
throne,
power,
seat of power,
knowledge and symbol of authority,
knowledge and symbol of authority,
sovereignty, dominion.
Okay, good. Let's do ourselves a favor here and look at all the translations. I always find it interesting to get translations also. Let's look at translations. What does the first one say? Dr. Mustafa al-Khattab. He says kursi is what? He says seat. So the first thing he says is seat. And he has a footnote here. What his footnote says can mean seat or knowledge. And some narrations attribute to Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam describes Allah's arsh as greater than his kursi. Good. Next one he says here, Faidul Suleiman says his knowledge for kursi. Literally seat, but he says it means knowledge. Next one, Muhsin Khan. These are not Mufassir, these are translations. He says his kursi. He took the easy way out. The simplest way. Dr. Khali, he says, oh, Khali, I don't know. His chair. Next one, Alam Maududi, he says what? His dominion. And he has a long footnote there. And then Yusuf Ali, he says his throne. He says throne there. And then he says his kursi. Not to be confused with arsh. Taqi Ismaili says chair. Pikthol says throne. And Abdul Halim says throne. So what you find is you have a whole range of things. What's another word for throne in Arabic? So Sabra says
Ah.
arsh. It is
I agree.
arsh. So what do you normally translate this verse as? Ayatul Kursi translated as what? The verse of what?
Verse of the throne.
The verse of the throne. But the word arsh doesn't appear in the ayah. Only the word kursi, not the word arsh. So the point I want to make is that when it comes to the word kursi, there are a number of different translations and understandings. Some of the translators use the word throne. Some of them use the word stool or chair or seat. And some of them use knowledge, power, dominion, authority. So why do you think you have all those differences? For one word, so many differences.
I'm gonna guess that there isn't a word like one word to explain the Arabic word kursi for what it's
why do you think?
intended to in this instance.
But why do you think the explanations vary so much?
Is it because it's in the realm of the unseen? It encompasses much more.
Okay, good. So, well, number one, it's in the realm of the unseen, as Sabira says here. It's sometimes read literally, and some are reading it metaphorically. So, let's read quickly what Ma'arif al-Quran says. He says here, the eighth sentence, وَسِعَ كُرْسِيُّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. His kursi extends to the heavens and the earth. It means that his kursi, translated as chair or base of power, is so magnified that its spatial infinity houses within itself the seven heavens and earth. Allah Almighty is above and beyond sitting and standing and all spatial location and placement. Such verses should not be taken up on the analogy of our own states and affairs. The comprehension of the state of being and the reality of his attributes is above and beyond human reason. The authentic narrations in the hadith simply tell us that the arsh, translated as throne or seat of authority, and the kursi are heavenly bodies many times larger than the heavens and the earth. And he says some more things there. What does Ibn Kathir say? Ibn Kathir, remember, this is not actually Ibn Kathir, this is an abridged translation of Ibn Kathir. So we should also clarify that when you quote here from here, you must actually, you're not quoting Ibn Kathir because you haven't read the Arabic. You're quoting the abridged translation of Ibn Kathir. So number one, there will be a number of omissions sometimes from this translation. And also you have to check whether the translation is accurate in its rendering of the Arabic. Just a note of caution, because sometimes these things are not exactly as they should be. Now he says here, وَسِعَ كُرْسِيُّ السَّمَاوَاتِ وَالْأَرْضِ. His kursi extends over the heavens and the earth. Waqi' narrated in Tafsir that Ibn Abbas said, kursi is the footstool and no one is able to give due consideration to Allah's throne. He says here, Ibn Abbas says, if the seven heavens and the seven earths were flattened and laid side by side, they would add up to the size of a ring in the desert compared to the kursi. So it gives the kursi a great magnitude because the whole existence of the heavens and the earth is like a ring in the desert compared to the kursi. So all of those things I discussed with you, and I want you to see it, because when you approach ayat which refer to the unseen, and especially when those ayat are linked to Allah, when they are linked to Allah, there are different approaches that people take in its tafsir and in its translation. So when Allah speaks about the kursi, some scholars and some mufassirun also will hold that the kursi and the arsh are the same thing. Even though it's not like a popular opinion or dominant opinion, there are narrations that say that the kursi and the arsh are the same thing, and therefore some translators will translate this as the throne, his throne, and people will call it the verse of the throne. Others will say no, that the kursi, the arsh is the throne of Allah Ta'ala, and the kursi is like a stool or a footstool. if we think of a worldly king has to rise and walk up to the arsh, to his throne, and he has to put his feet on like a footstool because the throne is very high. So Allah is beyond any imagination of walking or sitting or movement or place. Allah is beyond any material being. So we don't understand Allah Ta'ala to sit on anything or to stand on anything. So that's beyond any conception of that. So therefore, some translators will go like very literal. In other words, his throne, no, his stool or his footstool encompasses it. But then others will say, no, what does it mean when Allah says a footstool? It's almost like when someone says, give me a hand, what do they mean? Do they mean they want a hand? Like a literal hand?
They want to help.
They want help. When someone says, hit the road, does it mean you must start punching the tarmac? What does it mean? It's time to hit the road.
You must leave.
We must go
Must
travel now.
go.
We must move.
Hmm.
Must move. We must travel now. So in other words, some things are meant said in a certain way, but they're meant in a different way. So some translators will say that yes, the arsh exists, the kursi exists, but this meaning also means that Allah, the kursi represents Allah's authority and Allah's dominion, Allah's power. So the kursi is something, yes, but it represents dominion, power, authority. So they'll use a more metaphorical explanation. So therefore, they would use a more metaphorical translation. So all I have to say is that some of the translators will go metaphorical and some will go literal, and there's a whole school of thought behind either approach. And probably the most safe one is just to say his kursi extends beyond the heavens and the earth. But if you have to explain, you explain there's a literal meaning, and it could also possibly have a metaphorical meaning. And whichever meaning we take, Allah is beyond any movement and time and space. So that's a long answer for a short one word. Okay, so Sister Ron asked me in the chat here, the first one, يَعْلَمُ مَا بَيْنَ أَيْدِيهِمْ وَمَا خَلْفَهُم. Ma is actually an ismul mawsul. So ma, just to answer the question is, why is ma the maf'ul bihi, not the rest of it? Is ma is an ismul mawsul, like alladhi. يَعْلَمُ الَّذِي بَيْنَ أَيْدِيهِمْ وَالَّذِي خَلْفَهُم. It's ismul ismul mawsul. So anything that comes after the ma is part of the ma. So when you say ma is a maf'ulun bihi, it will include the thing that comes after the ma, because that is part of the ma. In other words, you can almost think of ma as alladhi.
So Maulana, sorry. To answer the question then, because like I think everybody said it was like the rest of the sentence also. I think there was like one or two of us that said it's only ma. But understanding that because it's a ma mausul, that there needs to be a silatul mausul to qualify it.
Perfect.
So if like what is the answer then? It's ma, but it includes everything. Is that the answer? Because then I would have gone on to think that like because baina then is a baina is a dharf.
Dharf.
I think. Yeah.
Yeah. So what happens is that you get the grammatical analysis of each word. You get the grammatical analysis of the combinations, if you know what I mean, or of the phrases. So each word has ya'lamu, a fi'l mudari, and the fa'il is a huwa inside. Ma is ism mawsul and it's a maf'ulun bihi. Bayna is a zarf makan, and aydihim is a mudafun ilay, the him is mudafun ilay, the waw is a harf al-atf, the ma is a ism ma'tuf, the khalf there is a ظرف زمان, and the hum is a mudaf ilay. But bayna aydihim wa ma khalfahum is a silatul mawsul for ma.
Okay, yes, because it can be a phrase, right?
So
Or one word.
what can be a phrase or one word?
The silatul mawsul, it could be
Silatul
either.
mawsul can be either, yes, can be a sentence or can be a phrase or can be a word. So in other words, this here is part of the ma. So in other words, you get like the i'rab of the individual stuff, and then you get the i'rab of the what this whole thing is. Yeah. So that's how I explain it basically.
Shukran for the clarity.
Okay, because sometimes almost like when you have the khabar, then you have the one word khabar, but the thing after it is part of the khabar. So it's a bit like that. Okay, Bismillah. So next one. ولا يؤود حفظهما وهو العلي العظيم to 55G. What are the grammar labels for the underlined words? Anybody? يلا يلا. يؤوده حفظهما وهو Brother Ziad, بسم الله.
يعوده is the fi'l, and in the attached damir is the maf'ulun bihi.
Good. Where's حفظهما?
That's the fa'il, but it's made up of a mudaf ilayh construction.
Perfect. So ya'udu means to tire something. So what is not tiring Allah? حفظهما, the preservation of it, the heavens and the earth, is the fa'il. حفظ is the fa'il, is not tiring who? Is not tiring or exhausting who? Him, Allah, maf'ulun bihi. So that is good. وهو العلي العظيم.
Oh, is huwa mubtada, and then we've got Aliyul Azim is khabar 1 and khabar 2.
Good. هو مبتدا علي خبر 1 العظيم خبر number 2. Perfect. How many sentences are in Al-Kursi? How many?
Sheikh, sorry to interrupt. Is it not Sifa 1 and Sifa 2 for Wahua al-Mawsuf?
Okay, so just one, two things. Whenever we have a damir which is detached, it is generally the mubtada. So in other words, it's going to be he is, and al-aliyu is going to be the khabar. He is the most high. Now, when you see al-azimu and al-aliyu, what comes to your mind first of all is that al-azim is matching al-aliyu in jend, and therefore it must be sifa mawsuf, because that's like the natural thought. But the first thing before we think about jend, the question is al-azim describing al-aliyu, or is al-azim giving me more in news about huwa? Talk to you with me. Is al-azim describing al-ali, or is al-azim giving me news about huwa?
Are they both not giving information about Hua?
So they're both giving you information. So the difference between a sifa and a mawsuf is a sifa and a mawsuf. If they're both giving information about huwa, are we adding an is in between and not adding an is?
Adding is because we are saying he is the most high and the most great.
Exactly. So whenever you add an is, you have mubtada khabar, because you have the focus and you have news. Whenever you don't add an is, like you say the boy is tall, mubtada khabar. When you say the tall boy without the is, then you have sifa mawsuf. So we're not saying here the high him and the great him. We're saying he is the high, he is the great. So therefore we have to have mubtada, khabar number 1 and khabar number 2. And not sifa. Okay. Last one. How many? We have ikhtilaf. We have some say 9, some say 10. How many sentences do we have? Okay. So count with me. I counted 9, but you can tell me if you find 10. Sometimes a sentence in a sentence, but I counted 9. So Bismillah. Allahu la ilaha illa huwa al-hayyul qayyum. That is one sentence and the jumlatul ismiya. So we're on 1. لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم. Sentence number 2, جملة الفعلية, because we have the verb. له ما في السماوات وما في الأرض. Sentence number 3, جملة الاسمية. من ذا الذي يشفع عنده إلا بإذنه. That is sentence number 4, and it is a جملة الاسمية. We have a جملة الفعلية inside of that, but that inside part is just part of the صيغة الموصول. So I wouldn't technically is a Jumatul Fi'liya inside of it, but I wouldn't count it as a separate thing because it's part of this whole sentence. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4. يعلم ما بين أيديهم وما خلفهم. That's جملة الفعلية number 5. ولا يحيطون بشيء من علمه إلا بما شاء. That's number 6. جملة الفعلية. وسع كرسي السماوات والأرض. 7 جملة الفعلية. ولا يؤود حفظهما. 8 جملة الفعلية. وهو العلي العظيم. 9 جملة الاسمية. So I count 9. Ziyad, Bismillah.
Maulana, could you perhaps read the first sentence, Allahu la ilaha illa, as a sentence, and then Huwa al-Hayyul al-Qayyum as a separate nominal sentence?
No, the proper analysis of this is Allah, Lafzul Jalala is the mubtada, and there's 3 khabars. Khabar number 1, La ilaha illa huwa. Khabar number 2, Al-Hayyu, Al-Hayyu. Khabar number 3, Al-Qayyum. Because otherwise you're going to have the illa floating with nothing after it. Remember, a sentence must be complete on its own. So if I say Allahu la ilaha illa, you can say that can't be a complete sentence.
Okay. Or even stopping at ilaha.
Allahu
Yeah.
la ilaha. What does that mean? Allah, there is no God.
Okay, yeah, I see. Except
You with me? A
have
sentence,
stopped.
you must be able to be silent after it.
Okay.
You with me?
Yes, yes. Yeah, normally you would stop at, yeah, I see, ilah huwa, Allahu la ilaha illa hu. Or
See, I can
Allahu
stop.
la-
I can say Allahu la ilaha illa huwa. See, it makes sense. I can stop.
Yes.
I can say Allahu al-Hayyu, Allahu al-Qayyum. I can stop after each one, but I can't stop after illa or after ilaha. Yeah. So to test whether you have a sentence is to test when you can be silent.
Maulana, I got the same. I also got 9, but I think I made a mistake with the 4th one where I assumed it was Jumla Fi'liya instead of
Man
Jumla
alladhi.
Ismiya. Yes. And
Yeah.
possibly the Yashfa'u that threw me out. But I'm just
Yeah.
trying to identify. I'm getting stuck here now with where the Mubtada would be.
Man will be the mubtada and the will be the khabar. I think that'll go. We can just double check quickly.
Okay.
It's always tricky when you do the questions. Then double check quickly. So again, we can just check the grammar and then it'll tell you what's happening with that. Wait. Yeah. So man the is man ism istifham mubtada.
Okay.
And then the اسم إشارة مبني على سكون في محل رفع خبر. So the is going to be in place of the khabar. So man is like who, the is the one who. So something is something, like that. So it's a bit difficult to see. We haven't done like a lot. But with man generally, that's going to be the mubtada, and whatever comes after is going to be the khabar. Like, because man means who is something.
Yeah.
So something is something. So like for example, I can say who is the one who went to the shop. The mubtada is the who, and is the one who went to the shop is the khabar. But in the khabar, there is also a verb went to the shop. Okay. Any other questions?
Sorry, Maulana mentioned earlier about the tafsir of Ibn Kathir on Quran Hive. There, if you scroll down there, it does mention 10 complete sentences. Maulana also looked at it earlier at that part. So maybe that's also where I was. I think 'cause initially I was going with 9, and then I was going through that, and then I thought I must be wrong because Tafsir Ibn Kathir on Quran Hive says 10 complete sentences.
Yeah. So again, we have to check whether the English translation is a correct rendering of the Arabic, and if it is, you must check why they say 10 instead of 9. But I can't see a 10th one. Yeah.
Okay.
But just because I can't see it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. But I can't see it where the 10th one is. Okay. Last thing is going to be the last thing I wanted to end up with was the link I sent you. And I think I've discussed this with some of the previous years before, so it's not new to you. But this is the link of that I sent to you. And the idea basically was to see that You can see even in this link here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 parts, or 9 sentences to this ayah, and each part links to its like mirror component at the end. So in other words, the first part speaks about Allah's sifat, al-hayyu al-qayyum, and the last sentence starts about his sifat, al-aliyu al-azim. So sifa is linked to sifa. The second part speaks about him not getting drowsy, not getting tired. لا تأخذه سنة ولا نوم لا يؤود حفظهما, speaks about him not getting tired. That's linked together. The third part speaks about his ownership. له ما في السماوات والأرض وسع كرسي السماوات والأرض, speaks about his ownership, and that's linked together. Next thing speaks about what he wills. من ذا الذي يشفع عنده إلا بإذنه, except by his permission. ولا يحيطون بشيء من علمه إلا بما شاء, except which he wills, speaks about his will. And in the middle part speaks about his knowledge. He knows what is before and what is after them. And this is called ring composition, because if you make a ring around it, it makes rings, and in the middle is the center of the ring. And this, if you read the whole article, this applies to ayat, also applies to whole surahs as well. So this is ring composition in the Quran. Good. So I hope you enjoyed it. I'm going to put just we're having a bit of an issue with our WhatsApp. So if I can just, we're going to email to you worksheet number 4. We're going to email to you, and then Wednesday at 8:30 will be your group session for you to go through it, inshallah. So Wednesday 8:30 will be your group session under the able facilitation of Sister Noran, mashallah. And Wednesday 8:30 will be your group session, inshallah, for you to discuss worksheet number 4. But don't come to Wednesday session without having read it's not like get the quick answers on Wednesday. You must work through it before Wednesday, and then Wednesday you come and discuss what your thoughts are on worksheet number 4. So let me just see if I can just rather send to everybody. I'll send to everybody now, so you have it with you. So if you got your chat now window, I'm going to send to you now. I'm going to rename this thing assignment 5. Okay, so I sent it the chat now. You can just you can just save it now, or click on it and you can save it, inshallah, in your chat window. Any other questions or anything else? Any other questions, or are you all good?
Maulana, we need to do assignment 4 next, eh?
Assignment 4, sorry, did I say 5?
Yeah, and I think you sent out assignment 5 also. But I see that Nasreen sent out assignment 4 this morning.
I think 4 is 5. The one is just literal, the one's metaphorical. It's literally 4, but metaphorically I made a mistake. It's supposed to be 4. So there's only one document and it's only 4. So I'll just rename it to 4 again, because we haven't done it. So
Maulana, just give us the heading of it, Kanala, because my email is not working and I'm not getting a WhatsApp message.
the heading of it says Surah Baqarah assignment 4.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, so don't be confused. There is no assignment 5, doesn't exist. There's only assignment number 4. Okay, so I'll say it again now. Now it's called 4. Okay, so please keep working hard on it, and we will see you next week, inshallah. Barakallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. May Allah bless and protect. And we will see you next week, inshallah. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Welcome, Islam, Sheikh.